There's something that deeply unsettles me when I observe certain patterns in counseling sessions. I see men who appear on the surface to have it all. They are hardworking, competent, have built stable careers, and at first glance lead fulfilling lives. Yet beneath that exterior, they apologize for simply existing. They apologize for being hungry, for feeling tired, or for having emotions that are perfectly human. And when I ask them why they do this, the answer is always the same. I don't know. I've always been like that. But the truth is, I do know. Decades of working with men who grew up in families where love was conditional, transactional, or withheld have shown me something disturbing. These aren't mere personality quirks. They are scars. Invisible scars that shape how a man loves, how he allows himself to be loved, and why he often chooses partners who force him to relive the pain of his childhood. If you constantly feel the need to justify your existence, if calm and unconditional love makes you nervous, if your body tenses whenever someone offers genuine affection, then what I want to share with you today is far more than a psychological observation. It's a map, a set of puzzle pieces that can help explain why your relationships often feel like emotional battlegrounds where you never seem to win. What I've come to understand is that these patterns are not coincidences, nor are they strange quirks of personality. They are the product of a very specific type of emotional conditioning that began long before you had the words to understand it, a conditioning that continues to influence every decision you make in love, even decades later. When a child grows up in a household where love is conditional, the nervous system is wired for permanent survival. This survival program doesn't automatically turn off when you reach adulthood. It becomes your internal operating system for navigating intimacy, relationships, and closeness. Imagine this: your emotional GPS was calibrated in a hostile landscape where love had conditions and boundaries were unpredictable. Now, decades later, you are trying to navigate the terrain of mature love. But your system is still scanning for dangers that no longer exist, anticipating betrayal that won't come, and preparing for battles that aren't there. The result is emotional exhaustion disguised as hypervigilance. Over years of counseling, I've identified 7 patterns that repeatedly show up in men who carry this invisible trauma. I want to walk you through each one, not just so you recognize yourself in them, but so you can begin to notice how your body responds when these patterns emerge. The first pattern I want to explore is what I call the compulsive urge to endlessly explain yourself. This isn't simply about talking too much or oversharing, it's far deeper than that. It's the sensation that your very existence must be justified, that you cannot simply be without offering reasons, explanations, or defenses. You may find yourself writing long, detailed messages when a simple yes or no would have sufficed. Every opinion you voice seems to require careful framing. Every decision must be defended. Every emotion, whether it's frustration, excitement, sadness, or joy, is softened, tempered, and often cushioned with a preemptive apology, as if your feelings are inconvenient or wrong. This is not communication in its natural form. This is survival. Your inner child learned early on that even a simple no could trigger an emotional explosion or backlash. Your needs, preferences, and feelings had to be explained, justified, and sometimes almost begged for in order to be seen as valid, worthy, or acceptable. You grew up learning that your presence, your voice, your choices, these could easily provoke conflict or rejection if left unguarded. And so over time, your mind and body developed the strategy of constant explanation as a protective shield. The impact of this pattern extends beyond your internal dialogue. It directly affects your ability to set boundaries. For you, no is never a complete sentence. Instead, it becomes the start of a negotiation, a long justification where you try to prove that your limit is reasonable, harmless, or fair. And with each explanation, each justification, you inadvertently invite others to question your right to say no, your right to exist, and your right to protect your emotional space. In essence, the compulsive need to explain yourself is a lifelong survival mechanism. born from an early environment where your needs could be ignored or punished. It is a pattern of adaptation, one that kept you safe then but can now silently undermine your self-respect, your confidence, and your ability to claim space in your relationships without apology. The second pattern I call hypervigilant empathy. It's a trait that feels almost like a superpower. You notice micro-expressions, detect subtle shifts in tone, and sense tension that others completely miss. You walk into a room and instinctively know who is upset, who is anxious, who needs something, sometimes even before they realize it themselves. On the surface, this seems like a gift, a remarkable sensitivity that allows you to connect deeply with others. But beneath it lies something far more complex, something born not of choice but of survival. Your nervous system, trained in early childhood, developed this radar as a protection mechanism. In your home, moods were unpredictable. Peace, one moment, could turn to chaos the next, and blame often landed unfairly. You learned that being aware, reading every subtle signal, and anticipating emotional storms could keep you safe. You could prepare yourself, adjust your behavior, and sometimes even prevent conflict before it erupted. This skill, while powerful, was forged in an environment where love was conditional and security was fragile. As an adult, living with hypervigilant empathy often means you can never fully relax in your relationships. You become the partner who constantly anticipates needs, who adapts to every tension, who avoids conflict at all costs. You are always scanning for danger, always negotiating peace, even in moments when it isn't necessary. What appears as care or attentiveness to others is often exhaustion in disguise. You may wonder why intimacy never feels easy, why love seems so draining, or why you struggle to be present without analyzing every micro-reaction. The truth is that your nervous system, conditioned for survival, hasn't yet learned that the threat has passed. Real intimacy, the kind that allows closeness without constant monitoring, cannot flourish when one partner must remain perpetually on guard, even when the danger is long gone. The third pattern is perhaps the most painful, an emotional allergy to genuine tenderness. When someone offers authentic kindness or affection without any hidden agenda, your body doesn't relax. Instead, it tenses, braces, and immediately asks what's coming next. What's the cost? What do they want in return? This reaction is not paranoia or overthinking. It is the intelligence of trauma, a survival mechanism honed over years of living in a world where love was conditional and unpredictable. In many households like yours, tenderness was never simple. A kind word or a gentle touch rarely existed without strings attached. Love was transactional. Compliments were often veiled manipulation, and gestures of care came with expectations or emotional invoices. Your nervous system, recognizing the patterns of your environment, learned to treat tenderness as a potential threat. It created an alarm that rang at even the slightest hint of warmth. What should have felt safe instead triggered caution. Genuine affection, which most people receive without question, became confusing, anxiety-inducing, and sometimes even frightening. This is why even years later, when a partner offers love freely and without pretense, your body reacts defensively. You may flinch, withdraw, or analyze every word and gesture, searching for hidden motives. You may ask yourself, why is this person being kind? What do they want from me? And this hyper-alert state can prevent you from fully experiencing connection, leaving you feeling isolated even in loving relationships. Healing this emotional allergy is not about convincing your mind that love is safe. It is about retraining your nervous system to recognize the difference between manipulation and genuine care. It requires patience, consistent practice, and self-compassion. Over time, you learn that tenderness does not always demand payment, that kindness can exist without strings, and that your nervous system can, slowly but surely, relearn how to rest in authentic affection. This is a crucial step in reclaiming the ability to truly receive love without fear. The fourth pattern is what I call the constant performance. Even when you are alone, you are rarely truly yourself. Your mind is always running, rehearsing conversations, imagining responses, rewriting messages multiple times, adjusting your tone of voice, and shifting your body language depending on who might see or hear you. Every word is chosen carefully, every gesture measured. This isn't about being dishonest, it's about survival. In your early life, showing your true self was risky. Expressing a feeling, voicing an opinion, or making a mistake could trigger criticism, rejection, or punishment. You quickly learned that your authentic self was not always safe to reveal. In response, you developed multiple versions of yourself: the professional self, the social self, the family self, the romantic self, each tailored to meet the expectations or demands of others. And behind each version was a constant question: who do I need to be for this person to accept me? Over time, this survival strategy becomes a deeply ingrained habit. The performance never stops even when you are alone, because your nervous system remains trained to anticipate judgment, disapproval, or rejection. And the consequence of always performing is profound. You begin to lose touch with the person beneath the masks, the real you, with all your thoughts, emotions, quirks, and vulnerabilities. You may feel a persistent emptiness, a sense of disconnection, or a quiet anxiety that you are never fully known. The tragic irony is that the very strategy that once protected you now blocks the intimacy and authenticity you crave. Real connection requires presence, honesty, and self-revelation. But when you are always performing, these become nearly impossible. The first step toward change is recognizing the performance for what it is, a survival tool from the past. Only then can you begin to peel back the layers, reclaim your authentic self, and allow relationships to be spaces of true intimacy rather than stages for ongoing rehearsals. And here's something crucial. Mature love is not an audition. It is not a test to earn someone's affection. True love is an encounter between two people who choose to be real with all their imperfections. But if you've spent your life in performance mode, being loved for your authentic self can feel terrifying and impossible. The fifth pattern is what I call the silent epidemic of apologizing. And I don't mean apologizing for actual mistakes. I'm talking about apologizing for existing, for having needs, for expressing emotions, for holding a different opinion, or even for taking up space in the world. I've seen men apologize for the weather when it rains, as if they somehow caused it. I've watched them apologize for mentioning their own accomplishments, as though being proud of themselves was an offense. Some apologize for asking for a moment to process their emotions, or for simply being hungry or tired. These apologies may seem small, even harmless, but they are anything but. Every unnecessary apology is a scar that points back to a childhood lesson. Your presence is a burden. When you grow up in an environment where love was conditional, where affection depended on keeping others happy, you learn to shrink yourself. You learn that your needs are too much, that your voice is inconvenient, that your existence demands constant explanation. And so, even as an adult, you carry this script inside you, apologizing not for wrongs committed, but for the very act of being human. Here's the danger. Every time you apologize for who you are, you reinforce the message that you are worth less. You teach others unconsciously to see you as smaller, as less deserving, as someone whose needs don't matter. And perhaps most tragically, you teach yourself the same thing. Breaking this cycle doesn't mean abandoning humility. It means learning the difference between being accountable and being ashamed of existing. Your worth is not conditional. You don't need to apologize for having needs, feelings, or dreams. You have the right to exist, fully, unapologetically, and without explanation. The sixth pattern is a magnetic pull toward emotionally unavailable people. From the outside, it might look like self-sabotage, even masochism, but the truth is far more subtle and painful. It's familiarity. Your nervous system is simply drawn back to what it knows best. If love in your childhood was unpredictable, if care was mixed with withdrawal, if affection had to be earned through effort, then your body learned to equate struggle with intimacy. Neuroscience shows that the brain wires itself around those early lessons. Love equals effort. Fear equals passion. Conquest equals worth. So when, as an adult, You encounter someone who gives love freely, without drama, without games. It feels strange, suspicious. Your nervous system quietly whispers, "This can't be real. This must be too good to be true." That's why you may find yourself repeatedly drawn to people who are distant, inconsistent, or unavailable. It's not that you enjoy the pain, it's that your inner system recognizes it as home. Uncertainty feels alive, while stability feels flat. You mistake safety for boredom and mistake chaos for intensity. This cycle is exhausting. It keeps you trapped in relationships where you are constantly striving, proving, and questioning your worth. You chase love like a prize to be earned, rather than something to be received. The way out of this cycle requires an act of courage, learning to endure love that comes easily, training your nervous system to recognize that emotional availability is not dullness, it is safety. That love which does not need to be fought for is not less meaningful. It is more authentic, more real, and far deeper. Love should not feel like a battle. The real challenge is learning to rest in peace, not struggle in chaos. The seventh pattern is the fear of becoming the very person who hurt you. Many men carry this hidden anxiety deep inside. They fear arrogance, fear causing harm, fear displaying traits that echo the narcissistic parent who wounded them. And so, without realizing it, they shrink themselves. They avoid recognition. They downplay accomplishments. They deflect compliments. They step away from visibility, as though success itself could transform them into the figure they swore never to resemble. But here lies a profound truth. The very fact that you worry about becoming narcissistic is living proof that you are not. True narcissists never pause to reflect. They never question their impact, never fear harming others, never sit awake at night wondering if they've gone too far. The presence of this fear in you reveals empathy, self-awareness, and emotional responsibility. It is a safeguard, not a sentence. Yet when this fear becomes overwhelming, it builds a new kind of prison. You hide your light, dim your voice, and silence your own presence. You deny yourself the fullness of life because you are terrified of repeating history. In trying so hard not to become the parent who harmed you, you unintentionally harm yourself. The path to healing begins with reframing the fear. Instead of treating it as evidence of danger, recognize it as proof of care. Your awareness protects you. It ensures that you will act with caution, humility, and compassion, qualities your parent may have lacked. When you embrace this truth, you no longer need to live in hiding. You can step into your strength without guilt, shine without shame, and accept recognition without fear. Your light is not arrogance. It is evidence of survival, of growth, and of a humanity that the one who hurt you could never embody. Understanding these patterns doesn't mean you are broken. It means you are empowered to choose differently. These 7 patterns are adaptations your mind used to survive conditional love. They are not flaws, they are proof of resilience, your hypervigilance, your compulsive explanations, your performances, your apologies, your emotional pull toward unavailable people. They all helped you survive a childhood that demanded it. But now they can prevent you from living freely. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It happens through recognition, patience, and conscious choices. It happens when you learn to accept love that is kind, present, and unconditional. Healing is choosing differently moment by moment, saying no without over-explaining, accepting tenderness without fear, showing your true self without pretense, taking up space without apology, choosing partners who are present and emotionally available, recognizing fear as proof of empathy rather than a barrier. Each step is an act of courage, choosing the unknown over the familiar, growth over repetition. Your story with narcissistic parents taught you survival. But now you can learn to flourish in love, building relationships grounded in authenticity, respect, and the imperfect humanity of 2 people who choose to grow together. This is not only possible, it is your right. You have the right to be loved unconditionally, to be seen, and to exist without apology. Love is waiting for you. But to recognize it, you must begin with treating yourself with the same tenderness you offer others. Speak to yourself as you would a close friend. Protect yourself with the same strength you offer to those you love. See yourself through compassionate eyes. The deepest truth I've learned is this: you cannot receive love you don't believe you deserve. You cannot build healthy relationships while in a toxic relationship with yourself. Healing begins with recognizing that you are worthy simply for existing, that your worth is not up for negotiation. From this foundation, you can choose relationships that honor your true self. The path to mature love is not perfect. There will be setbacks and moments when old patterns resurface. That is part of the process. What matters is that you now hold the keys. The patterns that have accompanied you are not your destiny. They are your starting point. You have survived. You have grown. You have chosen healing over repetition. You deserve a love that celebrates you, sees you, walks beside you, and allows you to shine fully. That love exists, and you, exactly as you are right now, are worthy of it. If this message resonated, don't stay silent. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more insights on healing, growth, and breaking free from old patterns. Your journey matters, your voice matters, and together we can turn awareness into transformation.